The number one question that I'm asked when talking about crypto is, what is Bitcoin? When people ask me this question, they tend to have somewhat of an understanding, enough to the point where they can at least try to describe it for themselves. But then they follow on with another question that's much more complicated. And that question is, what is blockchain technology? Okay, so let's take this in stages. What is blockchain technology? Well, simply put, blockchain technology is a notebook. That's right, all this hype and hubbub is about a notebook. A notebook. Well, a digital notebook. A digital notebook that has no delete button, so you can't remove anything that you've typed into it. Also, this notebook is being copied by hundreds of thousands of other people every time you make an entry into it. And these entries are being broadcast to every TV and mobile device in the world so everyone can see what's being written into it. This notebook is also in a vault and is secured by all different types of security measures, a gauntlet of lasers and locks and Rubik's Cube locks and bigger locks. So with this super complicated design, you can't help but wonder what in the world is being written on this notebook. The answer? Records. Yeah, it's pretty much it, records. What kind of records? Well, it depends. Depends on how you're using the technology. In a financial application, you can use this notebook as a ledger, which is nothing more than just a record of transactions where assets are moving from one location to another. In a medical application, you can use this notebook as a record to keep track of patients, medical history, doctor's notes, and even prescriptions. In retail application, you can use this notebook to store records of promotions, coupons, and other agreements between the company and the client. So the applications of this notebook are limited only to the imagination, and the support is only limited to how the notebook is being used. So, why is there no delete button? Well, the only time you've ever wanted to delete something in a notebook is if you wanted to make changes. We humans like to make changes. Sometimes it's because we've made a mistake, other times it's because we've changed our mind. Why no changes? Well, just imagine for a second that you punched an equation into a calculator and it gave you a result. And the moment you looked away and turned back again, the result would be different. It's not very helpful. It's time to throw away the calculator. Or just imagine somebody asking you for the time, and you took a look at a clock, and after you told them the time, you looked back and the time was different. One of the greatest benefits of digital technology is their rigidity and their absolute consistency. In blockchain technology, we call this feature immutability. This means that everything recorded cannot be deleted. Once it's in the blockchain, it can never come back. So why are people making copies of this notebook? Well, it's for the same reason that you would copy any record. It's so that it doesn't exist solely in one centralized location. This concept prevents fraud and manipulation. If one person were to attempt to make a change to a copy of a record, the other distributed copies would serve as evidence to determine what the actual record should reflect. In blockchain, we use the term decentralization. It means that there is no central command and there is no central control. Instead, the control is shared by a mathematical equation that keeps the control distributed amongst the participants. Why spend all this effort just to share this information with the public? Blockchain technology, and more specifically cryptocurrencies, come with something called a block explorer. This block explorer allows anyone at any time to peer into the blockchain to see what exactly is happening. That's right, this means you can see transactions, you can see wallets, and you can even see the balance on people's accounts. Well, that doesn't sound very private now, does it? In reality, the only way that your privacy can be compromised is if the data collected could be traced back to a specific person. If you were to go into the biggest banks of the world and take a look at their ledger and see multi-million-dollar transactions going through, but you didn't know who they were going to or who they were coming from, there's really not a whole lot you can do with that information. Speaking of security, why are all the barriers necessary in protecting this notebook? Earlier we talked about security measures like locks and Rubik's Cube locks and lasers and bigger locks. Of course, all of these images are there to paint a picture about a very important topic in blockchain, and that's cryptography. Cryptography just means that the data is scrambled in such a way that it can't be interpreted naturally. It needs to be decoded in order for you to gain access. This is why we have the term cryptocurrencies, because the data itself is actually encrypted.